Good evening, everybody. Um, you are on Reality in the Raw. This is Reality in the Raw, uncut, unfiltered, and unhinged. And you are here with your host, Ed Lloyd Sr. Again, this is in the Raw, uncut, unfiltered, and unhinged. And I'm your host, Ed Lloyd Sr. We got a lot of stuff to cover, but I just first always remind you of what the mission is. And our mission is to invite and encourage healthy discourse about relationships and other life issues in an effort to inform, to educate, and to find practical solutions to help navigate through difficult life circumstances. Though the topics are meant to be controversial and thought provoking, our intention is to create an environment of love, peace, understanding, forgiveness, and restoration to those who would listen and engage. This is not a platform for embarrassment, for airing out personal differences, for lambasting people you may dislike, or defaming the character of any individual. So, in this regard, we will entertain no rudeness, no ugliness, no toxicity, no bitterness, no vitriol, or no disrespect to myself or others. So let's keep this platform clean, jovial, energetic, fun loving with lots of good ideas so we can all get something positive from it. We also want to uh, let you know that you can call in at any time or you can get on the platform, I think on YouTube, and ask us many questions as you may like. Last week, and we continue our discussion on generational cycles. I think I've gotten many comments about that topic, and it has already been helping a lot of folk. And so I want to continue this topic, but I want to begin by it's interesting. And we're going to be real and raw, but I want to begin by citing a story, a true story, and it's important that I do this. um, Not long after, I'm also the pastor of a church. That's Oasis Christian Center in Tallahassee, Florida. And not long uh, after we launched the ministry, you know, um, there have been groups of people, and I'm just going to be real. There's been groups of people who have announced that they would and who have made it their primary purpose to make sure that our facility at the church um, would well to make sure that our church would never make it um, and they've made it their purpose, and in so doing they have said that what they do is to seek out as many individuals from the church as possible and tell them whatever they would, and that's been going on for years, telling them whatever they would about the pastor, the church, my family, to make sure that they leave the church. And they've been doing that for years, expecting the church to fold. Now, I'm not going to deal with the spiritual aspect of that because we know the gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. So, no matter what you do, you're not going to succeed. But I'm not going to go on deal with the spiritual aspect of that. I'm going to say this, that one of the things you have to know is that whenever you set out to make positive changes, whether in your own life, in the life of your family, or in a community. in the lives of others, folk are not going to like it. And because the devil is busy. And I want you to understand, and this is very germane, and it'll form the substratum to what we're talking about here, and will also form substrata, if you will, to some of the topics that we're going to handle. And so I normally say that when people criticize you and when they come against what you're doing, these actions do not happen ex nihilo. They don't happen out of nothing. They have antecedent causes. And people always have their reasons why they'll come against anything you're trying to do. But the point here is that anytime you decide to make your life better or to do anything to make the lives of others better, then you can expect attacks from any and everywhere. And so, what people will do, they'll throw stuff at the wall, hoping that it'll stick. And um, I'm going to invite you to to adopt an attitude like mine. Now, you know, folk can say all they want about me, but I'm going to invite you to adopt the kind of attitude I have. And that attitude is an attitude of intentional focus on goals. And it's intentional and intense to the point where I look forward to the negatives, the criticisms, and the haters and naysayers, because what they do is provide an impetus to get me more passionate, to intensify the drive with which I reach my goals. And I don't mean to be philosophical, but I would prefer be philosophical than crass in my presentation here and in the treatise of at least the beginning of the material. And so, what you I invite you to adopt an attitude like mine, which is to look forward to the negatives and the criticisms and whatever comes from the haters and naysayers. Because what they do is they act as pockets, if you will, of like energy pockets to help fuel your goals or your vision or dreams. if you if you ever think about somebody who is unconscious or who is near death or somebody who has lost passion, it takes smelling salt, which is very powerful, to frighten them into life. If somebody is too tired and they have an exam, for instance, and they have to be at a meeting, they have to be up, they take these little energy packs, which are very sour or bitter, in order to fuel that energy they need to accomplish their goals. And so, what we ought to understand is that the energy pockets, the energy, uh, the little pockets of energy that come to help us fuel our goals are always bitter and sour. Because if they are sweet and nice and comfortable, they will uh, lull us into a sleep that we can't recover. And so every one of these challenges and trials and tribulations, yes, uh, 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 I use them as energizers to fuel purpose. And so if you got anything from this, is don't be misguided and be shocked whenever you start something and it seems like all hell breaks loose because, and when folks start talking and trying to destroy what you're trying to build, because nobody tries to destroy a school that's closed. Nobody tries to destroy a church that has closed down. Nobody's trying to do anything to destroy a life that's going nowhere. And so when you encounter these challenges, they ought to be confirmation that you're on your way to something positive. When you encounter the trials and the storms, they actually give confirmation that your dreams are important. Because I don't hear nobody talking about losers. People don't talk much about losers. In fact, somebody I posted on Facebook some time ago that winners are focused on winning and losers are focused on winners. You see, you have to understand where you are in your fight, and you have to choose what battles you're fighting. And I'm going to use this as a substratum or foundation to what I'm going to talk about. You know, if you've ever been in church, the way we market church as some mostly some kind of entertainment that keeps the emotions high, energized, and keeps us feeling a certain way. But when I look at it plainly, I don't I don't know if I see a lot of change over the years in people's lives. And I've been talking about generational cycles or curses, and one of the most significant of them is poverty. And so at our church, we've started to talk about budgeting and finance because my hope is that we wouldn't just come to church and listen to the word of God and preaching, but my hope is that we'll apply it in a way to lift us up, to lift our families up, and to lift our communities up from the generations of poverty that we faced. And people don't like that because it takes no effort to come to church and feel good and feel that you have had a good spiritual experience. But it takes work and change and effort and passion and perseverance, and it takes consistency and constancy and focus and deliberateness and intentionality to effect change in your life. Take sacrifice and risk. And people don't like to do that. So whenever you start to try to change your financial status, and whenever you start to do things because you don't want to be poor anymore, some people will cause you great harm. And then the trials will start to come. But I am intent on doing anything and everything I can to lift our people from the shackles and imprisonment of poverty that has destroyed and negatively impacted generations before us and our generation. And so tonight I want to talk about reasons why people remain poor. Of course, we want to remind you that you're on Reality in the Raw, uncut, unfiltered, and unhinged. And we're talking about lifting the cycle of poverty that has plagued our generations for countless years. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. I'll stop if I can and answer your questions. But let's delve into this thing. Reasons why people remain poor. The question is, what is the number one reason people end up poor or in financial hardship. I think there's a verse of scripture we can use, if you will, and it's in John 10:10. And it says, the thief comes not but for to kill, to steal, and to destroy. But Jesus said, I am come to give you life and to give you that with abundance. Let me just warn you before I go anywhere. Anything that comes to steal anything from you that is marked by progress, you need to be careful about it. I don't care if it's words people might tell you. I don't care if it's your associations, your friendships, your family relationships, anything that comes to steal anything from you that God is trying to get to you, you should be very careful about associating yourself with that thing. So the very first question is the number one reason why. So the question I want to address is, what is the number one reason or some of the most important reasons why people end up poor or in financial hardship? And so one of the questions I ask first is, what is your focus and mindset? Because you become what you put in your mind. So what is your focus and what's your mindset about life generally, about finances, about progress, about who you want to become? What do you spend most of your time, energy, and resources on? You know, funny enough, people call me and tell me, oh, somebody said something bad about you. Somebody said something bad about me. They talk about my kids, my parents. Somebody talked about me badly. But they don't call me and say, how in the world do I get out of poverty? Consistent negative balances in my bank account. I don't have no credit. I don't have nothing. I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. These are not the calls I get. The calls I get is deal with why people are so bothered emotionally. I got upset at something, angry, disappointed, discouraged. And none of it has to do with the continuum of progress and investment into a bright future. So my question is, what do you spend most of your time and energy and emotions and your passion and your resources on? What do you get mad about? What do you get emotional about? What are the things that you really get emotional about? What are the things you cry about? What do you think? What are the things you get happy about? Mm. And then the other question is, what do you listen to? Who do you listen to? Who do you associate with? Who do you hang out with? What and whom do you allow yourself to be influenced by? Because there's a saying that is true, it's an old adage that says, birds of a feather flock together. So what is your focus or your mindset? What do you spend most of your time and energy and passion and emotions and feelings and resources on? What do you listen to? Who do you listen to? Who do you associate with? Who do you hang out with? Most of all, what do you talk about usually? What do you most talk about? Spend a lot of time around folks, and they can't stand when I'm constantly talking about progress, change, moving up the ladder, going up the mountain. I mean, they can't stand it. It's like, why can't we just talk about my emotions and my feelings and my anger and why I'm upset and why I'm discouraged? Man, man. You know, I, it's saddening. It's saddening. And it's depressing when you're trying to reach a goal and you're not constantly talking about that goal. It's asinine trying to build a life, but you're never talking about that life. You don't spend time thinking about it. You don't spend any time reading about it. You don't spend any time with people who either are already where you want to go or are going where you want to go. You know, there are 168 hours in in a week. And I have a standard that, including all the counseling that I do in and out of the church, I will not spend more than 2 to 5 hours a week talking about or listening to negativity. That's intentional. And I know when I've reached my 2 hour limit, if I'm not involved in crisis counseling. I don't. Simply don't. Because what you talk about, what you think about, what you think about, you talk about, and what you think about, you become. So many people talk about how they feel. And we've been in this quagmire of always trying to deal with how we feel. And that's been passed on for generations. Let me tell you, you are not going to get out of poverty by always dealing with how you feel and your emotions. It's not going to happen. Most of the people I meet, many Americans and otherwise, are clearly not experts at managing their own finances. And they end up broke month after month. Let me just be practical. If you end up broke month after month, you are not able to manage your finances by yourself. You know, we just gonna be. Let's be raw, man. If you end up broke month after month, you are not able to manage your own finances. Get some help. The cycle of overspending leaves people poor, even if their income means they are considered well above the poverty line. It's killing our people. One third of high income households, those that bring in what $75,000 or more, live paycheck to paycheck. And these are facts. That's not even my facts. They live paycheck to paycheck. That's from a recent survey from SunTrust Banks Incorporated. So I'm not giving you new information that I made up. If you are living from paycheck to paycheck, you are not capable right now of managing your own finances. You need help. But here comes the feelings, emotions of embarrassment, of shame. I mean, Lord help us. And there are other factors, like the average per household amount of credit card debt that stands at nearly $16,000 and dismal savings. Do you know 73% of Americans have less than $1,000 in the savings account? 73%. That's almost three quarter of Americans. I'm gonna calculate it for you. As a mathematician, you take 0.73% of 300 million people. 219 million people in the United States have less than $1,000 in their savings account. And we worried about our emotions and how we feel. Let me say it again. Almost three-quarter of all Americans, that's a whole lot of folk, have less than $1,000 in their savings account. I want that to sink in, man. So that raises a question. Why are people with relatively good income always broke? Why are we poor? Poor. And we don't like it. Oh, don't call me poor. But you poor, though. So back to our question, which is the number one reason why people end up poor and in financial hardship. What's on our minds? What do we spend our emotions on? Look at your daily schedule. Let's break it down. You cannot even win a day, but you're trying to be rich, though. You can't win the day. You're living throughout the day, and somebody says one thing to you. Your neighbor says one thing to you, does something, and your whole day is gone. You can't even win the day. What are you focused on? What do you spend most of your time on? Look at your weekly schedule. Does your weekly schedule scream, I want to get out of poverty? Your energy, what do you spend most of your energy on? Is your energy spent in the direction of desire to get out of poverty? What do you listen to? Who do you associate with? Is it people that can lift you up and push you and provoke you and bother you to be in a better situation? Or are you just contented coming to church, and you come to church, you do well, you go to a job and you live from paycheck to paycheck and you feel good because you're holy? I don't want to talk about the way we count holiness, because that's a whole other topic. Let's talk about some reasons why people stay poor. Number one, stuck in a debt trap. You can write it down. You're stuck in a debt trap. When you're poor, it is easy to get stuck in a debt trap because you become desperate. When you're poor, it's easy to become stuck in a debt trap because you become desperate. Whether it's a payday loan, a debt settlement scam, or even using credit cards out of emergency. It is easy to make rash decisions when you're stressed, and these decisions usually keep people broke. Stuck in a debt trap. That thing will keep you poor. Number two, ignoring big debts, ignoring large debts. And again, this is not information, is not mine. I'm just sharing it with you. When you're broke, stacks of bills and overdue notices can become a huge source of anxiety and dread. So you just put them away. Don't open the mail. You see that thing and you know they add more interest and you just think, I don't want to see it. But avoiding these problems and failing to manage your debts only make them worse. I'm talking about getting out of poverty. A lot of young adults are burdened by student loans and other debt. Yeah, they don't realize there's a lot of options out there. For example, for student loans, there are tons of programs that can help you with lower payments and forgiveness. But you got to be intentional and take steps to find out what's out there you can benefit from instead of just ignoring it because it's large. Number 3, people stuck in poverty feel helpless. I remember one of my friends, she was going through some financial stuff and she just would quit a job. No, she didn't quit a job. She got fired. And she would just lay down on the living room floor. Would not, could not fill out an application. Wouldn't go nowhere, just strung out, depressed. When you're poor or in the middle of a financial hardship, it can make you feel powerless to do anything about it. But giving into those feelings of helplessness, they won't help. They will only hurt you. You all get the questions coming now. You got to get accurate. I always say you got to know what your debts are in order to deal with them. If you don't know what the problem is, you're not going to be able to solve it. By getting accurate, unbiased knowledge and advice, people can feel empowered and confident in their personal finance decisions. The issue is, folk don't like to hear about nothing. You start talking and motivating and inspiring and pushing folk, they get depressed. They don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to talk to you because it hurts them. It's just too much. Too much, too much. Let's deal with it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. They would rather Google stuff than come to the folk who can really help them because it's too close a thing. You know, I prefer hear it from over there so I don't have to move right away. But I know if I hear it from you, you're going to push me and check on me and make me responsible and accountable. Oh, man. When you get good advice, sometimes it hurts because financial advice got to be straightforward. But when you get good advice and you listen and take, it can empower you to make better decisions, more responsible decisions. Then you can take steps to make better financial, to make a better financial future. Somewhere the Bible says people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. But these days, people don't want to hear the truth. Tell them a lie and comfort them. Don't tell them the truth because the truth is going to change them and make them better. I don't understand. Many people are broke because they don't learn about personal finance. They don't want to learn about their personal finances. Tell me something general, but don't deal with my finances. I think the psychology should shift from how can I spend money to make me happy to how can I use this money to buy me financial freedom in the future. What do you use your money for? Is it to buy you financial freedom in the future? Or are you just trying to look good now? See, if you're able to make that shift, you'll be empowered and you'll be able to overcome most reasonable hardships. I saw a question there. How do women maintain balance concerning their emotions and their productivity? See, that's the problem. We want to get rid of poverty, but we're still in emotions. Money don't feel. We're still talking about. That's why we can't get. That's why we're poor. Every question, every statement, it's about emotions. When you're trying to get out of poverty, to hell with emotions. The emotions got to go to hell in order for your finances to live. How do women maintain balance concerning their emotions and their productivity? You use your emotions to become productive. Anger, for instance, is passion. So, but it's passion with negative energy. Turn that passion into finding out what can you do so you don't remain pissed po. I'm mad today. I'm upset today. You don't want to mess with me today. Because I don't want to be po no more. Ask me for $20, I ain't got none. Can't find money to buy gas. Complaining about gas prices. Working and you can't meet I'm tired of these emotions. They don't pay the bills. Ain't got no money in the bank but your emotions. To hell with the emotions. Use your emotions as passion to change your situation. Stop worrying about how you feel. And do something to get some money in your pocket so you don't get evicted and go hungry. It's ridiculous. I'm not mad at the person. I'm just saying, come on, man. Come on, man. Emotions are overrated. And we all have emotions, but I utilize my emotions as passion to get out of poverty. That's why when folks say stuff about me, I don't care. I don't give a hoot what folks say. I'm not spending my time and energy trying to address some fool who don't put no money in my pocket, who don't put no food on my table, who don't pay my rent. To hell with what they got to say. They can say I murdered the county. I don't care. Spend too much time in our emotions. They say I slept with a goat. I don't care. They say I had sex with a cockroach. I do not care. They say I burned down the church. I don't care. Because people who care about that crap stay in poverty. Hey guys, you are on Reality in the Raw, uncut, unfiltered, and unhinged. And we're talking about getting out of poverty, using your emotions, your resources, your time, and everything you got to get out of poverty. Stop worrying about what everybody got to say. And whew. Number 5, throw the questions at me. I'll answer them. I'll be real and raw, but it'll help you. I'm going to tell you all why, and that's something I learned. I used to see my wife doing it. I asked her one time. She didn't say nothing. She probably thought I was against her. No, I was impressed because I don't know where she got that information from. Number 5, we stay poor because we do not pay ourselves first. I noticed every time she got paid, She used to disappear some of the money. And she said, that's for me. It don't pay the bills. And I know she remembers. It don't pay the bills. It don't pay expenses. I pay myself first. Somebody said that the number one reason why people end up poor is because they do not pay themselves first. I don't know. Some people ain't never heard about that. That don't mean be selfish. Paying yourself first means putting a portion of each paycheck into a savings account before dividing the rest to cover expenses. Hmm. And the number two cause is paying with credit. But I'm going to get there. One of the main reasons people remain poor is because they do not pay themselves first. I've been telling people, I don't care if it's $5, $10, every time you get paid, pay yourself, take a portion and put it in your savings account. But no, 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 no. I got to put it at Walmart. No, I got to go. No, you pay yourself first. You're poor because you don't pay yourself. Any dumb person know I got to pay myself. I'm the one who worked. Man. Number five, the reason we stay poor is because we do not pay ourselves first. We pay everybody else, but not ourselves. Most of the time, I got an attitude today. Whew, it's all over me. Bring the questions now. I have enough information. Number six, reason why we remain poor. Too emotional, man. Is we put today's happiness before future financial needs. No, six is not too emotional. I'm just saying that we're too emotional. But number six is you put today's happiness before future financial needs. Poverty is often generational. Folk don't like to hear me say that, but it's true. Check your mama and your papa. You might be poor simply because your family has always been poor, which is one of the one of the hardest environments to make progress. When people tell me I'm going home, I'm like, what you going home to? You come out of poverty, a generation of poverty, and then something happened and you're going back to it. You were not saving money because you were not paying yourself when you had a job. Now you go back home, it's less motivation. Lord help me. People who should be in good financial shape may not be, often because the decisions they make are not aligned with their future financial needs. Making conscious decisions that require some thought about the future doesn't seem to be as satisfying in the moment as choosing something that they perceive to have an immediate or positive effect on happiness. Same thing with emotions. We act how we feel right now, but don't think of the consequences later. There's a question. If you aren't living from paycheck to paycheck, what should be the next goal to grow money that you do have? Yes, you see that kind. These are the kinds of questions. That's from Tiffany. These are the kinds of questions that are asked by people who I talk to, who I like to talk to. Rest of the folk are groping in the darkness, and I love them, but they got to do something to get out of it. You talk about investments, real estate. I'm coming to you. Money markets. These are the kinds of things that I spend my time talking about from day to day. I have people with millions of dollars asking me, how should I invest? What should I do? And I have to come down from that conversation to somebody who's crying, emotional, because the cousin, they're struggling now, but they're crying and spend days because the cousin told them something or called them out their name. What a job I have. Yeah, but we're going to talk about investing in real estate and some stuff. Another question: if you are trying to pay off debt and have a plan, should we? That's a huge one. If you're trying to pay off debt and have a plan, should we entrepreneurs still pay ourselves first? You got to pay yourself first. It means that if you're an entrepreneur and you're not saving, then you're not planning for the future. So you got to readjust your budget to pay yourself first. So if you're trying to pay off debt with a plan, your plan should include paying yourself first. I hope that answers the question. What are some of the strategies for using credit cards to finance a business venture? Father, bring me revelation in the name of Jesus. What are some of the strategies for using credit cards to finance a business venture? My God, I just got done. I mean, can I answer this question in this session? What are some of the strategies for using credit cards to finance a business venture? My God, I need celestial knowledge and time to answer that question. What are some of the strategies for using credit cards to finance a business venture? My God in heaven, this is for a PhD class in financing. This question needs some um, personal attention because I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions that I need to ask to see if the person has begun to understand what they're asking. And I'm not saying you haven't, but I have to understand what you're saying. So I have to understand that you understand what you're asking so I can understand what to answer. What are some of the strategies for using credit cards to finance a business venture? You all pray for me. I need revelation because I'm going to answer that question, but I think it needs personal attention. What are some of the strategies on this? We're trying to get out of poverty now. What are some of the strategies for using credit cards? A strategy for using a credit card to finance a business venture, which we don't know what the business venture is. There are millions of business ventures, but what are the strategies? I need to answer that outside of this thing because I'm still trying to get out of poverty today. No, no, go back. I need this question. Don't hurt me, please. What are some of the strategies for using credit cards to finance a business venture? I would need to know what the business ventures are and why would we need to use a credit card to finance it. Does the person have a job? Are they an entrepreneur? Do they have a side gig? What are some of the business ventures what are some of the strategies for using credit cards to finance real estate? Bon Dieu, you didn't help it. So we'll have to attend to this question in 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 camera, in a personal session, because that requires a whole lot of uh, how much money do you have in your bank account? What are the source and use of funds? Um, what's your state of liquidity? What is the half life of the business venture? And how many people are involved? See, when I start asking these questions, they just told me the time check was 7:50. I've got questions for you. So I think that was Alicia. I think that was Alicia. We'll address that in a separate session if you don't mind. People who should be in good financial shape may not be, often because of the decisions they make are not aligned with their future financial needs. Making conscious decisions that require some thought about the future, being intentional and deliberate about the future and what you want in the future is not as satisfying as the momentary, instantaneous satisfaction. Choosing something that we perceive to have an immediate positive effect on happiness. And that's what we do. We put today's happiness ahead of future financial needs. I'll do number 7, and I'll open for some questions. One of the main reasons why people remain poor is because they lack an emergency fund. Well, if 73% of the people in these United States have less than $1,000 in their bank account, it is probably a sin to ask them about emergency funds. Ask somebody if they had emergency funds. They told me yes. I asked them how much they have in their account. They said $43. I didn't get upset. I started praying, knowing the Lord wasn't going to hear me. Okay, that's being sarcastic. Jeff Rose, founder of GoodFinancialSense.com, listed his 4 top biggest ways people hurt themselves financially. Number 1, not knowing how much debt they really have and how much interest they're paying. Oops, I don't know how much debt I really have. Every time I look at it, I get a migraine. So I don't want to look at it. And then every time somebody asks me about it, I get angry at the person who's asking. Number 2, not having nearly enough cash savings in emergency funds. Not having enough in cash savings for emergency funds. Number 3, not recognizing the need to save for retirement. Number 4, being oblivious to what is going on with the credit history. That's as simple as requesting a free credit report and making sure all the information is correct. Lack emergency funds. Do you have $20 for gas? No. Please, we're winding down and on reality in the raw, uncut, unfiltered, and unhinged. If you have any questions, please go to the site and ask questions. But my interest right now is not in what people have to say, and it's not in how they act, it's not in the criticisms and that. My interest is not in trying to answer folk back and trying to feel good. My interest is in trying to lift a community, to do all I can, everything I can, to lift our community out of the generational cycle of poverty. Because when I look in the Bible, part of the curse of any community is generational poverty. Because it affects our health, it affects the way we interact with each other, it affects the way we share love with each other and reciprocate that love. It affects how we eat, our nutrition, our diet, and thus our health. It affects the way we worship. And so my job, my assignment right now And I'm razor. I have razor sharp focus on that assignment. That part of my assignment is to help our community, help lift our community out of generational poverty. And I do it one person, one family, one church, one neighborhood at a time. You might not like this message. You might not like me. Sometimes I don't like me. So when folk come, I don't like him. I'm like, you too late. I beat you to it. But I want to see our community get lifted up from the stranglehold, the noose of poverty, so we can take charge in our economics, in politics, in the decisions we make from day to day, in making our dreams come true, and not always have to struggle for a handout, whether it be from a neighbor and from the government. And you may be there now, and there's no curse if you're there. But my question is, what are you doing to lift yourself out of that place? You are in on Reality in the Raw, on our podcast, Reality in the Raw, uncut, unfiltered, and unhinged. I'm your host, Ed Lloyd Sr. And next week or the week after, we'll announce it. We will be back with the same message, lifting the curse or the cycle of generational poverty from your life and from mine. So we as a community can rise above all the stuff and not have to point and blame, but we take responsibility for our own selves, for our own finances, for our own emotions, for our own mindsets and thoughts. And we become powerful people, empowered by knowledge. But we got to face ourselves first. Till I see you again, don't forget to engage, subscribe to our channel, and we're going to be talking dollars and cents, dollars and SENSA the next time you hear from me. That should be next week, right about this time. And I believe it's, what date is it? It's the 7th. So we look forward to seeing you on the 12th to talk some dollars and cents on Reality in the Raw. Till we see you again, we love you. We care about you, but we want you to change so you can be empowered to change your community, one person at a time. Sorry, next week, the 14th. Did I say the 14th of June? That's 2 days after my birthday. We'll be talking dollars and cents. Till we see you again, we love you and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.